There's this great moment in the IT crowd. It's an episode called The Internet is Coming. It's really one of my favorites. We've got this situation where we've got Moss and Roy, the IT guys, who are typically lazy and sarcastic and hilarious in their own, and then Jen, their manager, who knows nothing about computer science, but has been led there as an expert to become the manager of the department. Well, one day when she's doing a speech, because she's such an expert for the entire team and the entire staff of their company, Moss and Roy decide to play a practical joke on Jen. And what they do is they introduce Jen to the internet. It's a black box with a red light to show that it's active.
This, Jen, is the internet.
It's just this box, just sitting there, a black box, and they build it up, and then they point it out to Jen, and they go back and forth, and finally Jen is drawn into the fact that this is indeed the internet. And she says, "Where are the wires?" And then they said, "Well,
It's wireless.
it's wireless." Oh, of course, right. Well, how come it's so light?
It's so light.
Of course it is, Jen. The internet doesn't weigh anything.
No, of course it doesn't.
And then the same thing happens when she gives the presentation. Moss and Roy are at the back of the room waiting for people to roar in laughter at the fact that she says, "This is the internet, ladies and gentlemen, this black box with the red light." And nobody laughs. They all say, oh, look, there's the internet. Oh, there it is. And someone in the audience says, "Well, how heavy is it?" And then Jen laughs at her and says, "Oh, well, the internet doesn't weigh anything, right?" Well, it's a great, great episode. It's good satire. It's a good practical joke. It does all kinds of great things. Awesome gag show. But here's the kind of thing that I like about it is it points out the ridiculousness of the way that we are walking around thinking. Now, we don't think that the internet is this little black box with a red light on it, so we think we're very smart. We know that's not the internet. But we actually do think the internet weighs nothing. I mean, most of us, when we think of the internet, aren't thinking about a thing. Yeah, it's a complex thing, but we're not thinking about a thing. Might think about things, but not a thing. Like, the internet is something, and it's not light. It weighs a lot. It's incalculably heavy. It's a huge thing. It's a complex thing, and we have this magical mindset that, somehow, like, our thoughts are either, on one point of view, the emanations of the muscle of the brain, a machine that creates this kind of gaseous something that we haven't been able to weigh, or our spirit or soul or something like that. That's how we imagine the internet. It's just this thing that kind of exists, but it's not like something. And the reason I say that it weighs a powerful amount is because it's made up of lots of parts, and it's all over the place. The internet is heavy because the internet is somewhere. And that's the thing that we forget. The myth of our digital understanding is we don't realize that the internet is somewhere. It's a lot of somewheres. I mean, the internet is in suburban Montreal in a boreal biome. The internet is in the high desert foothills of Nevada. The internet is on the steppes of Inner Mongolia. The internet, like the internet itself, like the internet, it's in scrubby grassland in an urban garden in India. It's in deserts of Saudi Arabia. It's in an archipelago of 1,300 islands near the Arctic Circle in Sweden. It's there. It's in those places. It's part of those ecosystems. It's part of cleared rainforest outside of Sao Paulo, Brazil. I mean, it's part of like the high plateau grasslands that kind of head on to savannas in the north part of Johannesburg. The internet is somewhere, and the internet is also on your phone. That's right. This kind of thing right here. It's parts of it are there, the parts that you're using. That's how it works. It's an integral network. It's a super network of different things. So we have this magical belief that the internet is not like a real thing. It's not somewhere specific, but we also have trouble thinking about the places where it is as being like real physical places. Like the reason that I mention these different ecosystems rather than focus on, say, the factories or the people that work there is because we forget that our phone exists in kind of ecological reality, right? What are the ecological makeups of your phone? Like what ecologies did your phone emerge out of, right? Your phone's not just like a thing. It's not just one thing. It's made up of many things. And each of the different things are assembled in different places from different parts, and they come from different ecosystems. The casing is going to be from a different place from the motherboard, and then the wiring and the plastic from the motherboard may be sourced from different kinds of wiring and plastic in other parts of the phone. That little bit of thing, whatever that is that makes it go bzz, 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 the light, the cameras, like some cell phones with 6 cameras on them, right? The glass, the special glass that allows us to interact with our phone, with our skin, but like doesn't, butt dial all the time, right? All of these different pieces make up our phone, and they're all from places. They're not just, a factory in China or Taiwan. Those factories, whether they be in China or Taiwan or the United States, they're real places. And those places have ecosystems. They have ecologies. Usually they're near rivers or on plains or mountains are in sight. Maybe there's a desert, or maybe it's in a cooler spot. Is it near a city? Is it part of a suburb? There are ecosystems that are part of our phones, and we forget this. We have trouble realizing this. And there might be 50 nations or 100 regions that go into making up our phone. And this phone has the ecological footprint of all those places. Big or small, that's what comes into our phone. And we are somewhere now. Like me, I'm somewhere now. I'm in Prince Edward Island. I'm in land that was once more forested and is now more citied. I've only been here for 204 years, where my family boated up a river and then took some forest tree land, the old Acadian forest that no longer exists, and they cleared it and made farmland. And my family's land continues to be farmland still. And just like a 45-minute walk from where I grew up, there are evidences of the Mi'kmaq people and their ancestors living there for thousands of years. There's artifacts and evidence of the movement between summer camp and winter camp and fishing and different kinds of activities within wetlands and within dune structures and on shorelines and in ditches and across the various kinds of water systems that exist in our rolling, beautiful cradle in the waves, the Garden Province. This is the reality of the cell phone in which I live. My systems exist in this kind of an ecosystem, in the ecologies that are part of their reality. Now, ironically, what's so strange is when we kind of chop ourselves as human beings up into bits, like mind versus body, or like our emotions, our heart versus our intellect. Like while we chop ourselves up into bits, no, it's okay. I can just do that 5 days a week, and 2 days a week are my own. While we chop ourselves up into bits, we have this, not just the myth of the disintegration of the selves, chopping ourselves up into bits, but the myth of the integration of the tools that we use, imagining they're one thing. No wonder these tools start to take over us little by little. We forget what they are and how we're related to them. Our tools are not a unified thing. They're made up of bits, and they're somewhere in our hands or in our pasts. Remembering that the internet is somewhere reminds us that we are somewhere. We're in a place and time. We're in a relationship with the ecologies of our reality, both past and now. All the things that we have, all the tools that we use, all the places that we inhabit, we will reshape the ecologies of our reality into both the tools that we use and the places we inhabit. I mean, that's why they inhabit us, right? These things help us create that space that we call home, because we are somewhere and the internet is somewhere.